In the traditional classroom, we treat the writer as a solitary figure, working in isolation to channel profound truths. We scan the pages to recover a specific intended meaning, treating the book as a direct line into the mind of a lone, independent genius. Antonio Gramsci developed a theory of culture that dismantled this image of the isolated creator. Gramsci categorized writers, philosophers, and artists as traditional intellectuals. Because their work involves abstract ideas rather than physical labor, these thinkers often view themselves as autonomous agents, detached from the realities of political power. Gramsci argued this independence is an illusion. Intellectuals are deeply tethered to the dominant social and economic groups of their era. Their work provides the cultural framework that sustains the existing ruling structure. Political stability relies on manufactured consent. A state maintains its position when the masses voluntarily comply with the social order. This compliance is secured through the schools, media, and literature produced by those intellectuals. By following the myth of the independent author, we ignore the cultural machinery that works to secure our obedience. Louis Althusser identified the specific mechanism that allows this cultural power to function without the use of force. Althusser focused on ideological state apparatuses, institutions like churches and schools that perform a process called interpellation. These systems hail us, providing us with identities and molding us into compliant subjects. The writer undergoes this same process. They are not a sovereign mind inventing new worlds, but a molded subject operating within the ideological framework of their time. Ideology functions best when it feels natural. It is the invisible current guiding our movements, so pervasive and seamless that we mistake its influence for our own intuition. If the author is a product of their environment, seeking true meaning in their work simply validates the ideology that created them. Pierre Macheret argued that we must abandon the concept of creation and instead use the word producer. Writing is a form of labor. A writer produces a text by assembling raw, existing materials, the language, myths, and ideological biases of their society. This challenges the traditional method of interpretation. When a critic searches for an intended message, they simply summarize and repeat the message the author meant to convey. Interpretation reinforces the dominant ideology of the author's era. It fails to analyze the text, opting instead to echo its original biases. Real analysis requires us to stop asking what the author intended to say. We must focus on the ideological components they were forced to use. Macheret proposed explanation, or symptomatal reading. This method scans the surface of a story to find internal fractures and contradictions. Built from flawed, real-world ideologies, a book can never achieve perfect unity. These materials conflict, leaving inevitable gaps in the narrative. A critic must look into these silences, analyzing the unspoken, the information the book was ideologically required to leave out. Consider a Victorian novel that praises industrial progress while remaining silent about the exploitation of factory workers. That silence is a structural necessity that allows the story's ideology to remain intact. The shape of hegemonic power is outlined by the negative space of a book's silences. Every book reflects the specific ideological limits of the era that produced it. It maps the boundaries of what a society was capable of thinking at a particular moment in history. In daily life, ideology is formless and difficult to observe. By writing a story, the author gives that ideology a tangible form, a fiction. When ideology is fixed in a text, its edges become visible. We can see exactly where the author's worldview stops and the unspoken reality begins. Literary criticism functions as a necessary unmasking of the invisible power structures that shape our identities. Power reaches its peak efficiency when it successfully dictates what remains unsaid.